visions revealed a great warrior who would claim the power of the Scorpion and defy an empire.
Will you stand alone before the fury of his armies?
Yes. On April 19th, the adventure begins. The Scorpion King. Rated PG-13. At theaters Friday, April 19th.
By my father's head, I pledge my allegiance to Cinema Arcade. Welcome, everyone. This is the podcast about movies, video games, and the sparks that fly when those worlds collide. My name is Steve Guntley. I'm a very large, muscular desert warrior. And who else is joining me today? Don't look up any pictures of me.
I'm J-Ban. I am an unnamed Amazon.
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, you've named yourself now. Yeah. And who else is joining us?
Hi, I'm Justin. I don't remember the guy's name, but I'm pretty sure I'm the more useless comedic relief character in this environment. Because I don't think I'm a desert warrior. I don't think I like deserts.
You could have said you're a sexy sorceress. People don't know.
Either.
People don't know. Yeah.
I can't do magic.
Hey, I think we're all attractive, but we're not Kelly Hugh attractive.
Few people are. Man, I came away with this movie with like a, what the fuck is that? Who is this? One could say is what I kept asking. Welcome, everybody. We're talking about 2002's The Scorpion King, which is, of course, a spin-off of the character that we just met in last week's episode, played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. This is one of the few times where he's just going as The Rock above the title credits. There is no Dwayne, there is no Johnson. This is just The Rock. And we are going to be talking a lot about him today because this is his very first starring role in what would be a very prestigious and high-earning box office career. So I'm excited to talk about it. It's also fun to kind of step away from the mummy mythos for a little bit and talk about this little side character, which spun off into its whole weird little franchise. But we'll get into all of that. Let's talk about The Scorpion King, which was released April 19th, 2002. It's directed by Chuck Russell. It's written by Stephen Sommers, William Osborne, and David Hayter. And it stars The Rock, Kelly Hughes, Stephen Brand, Grant Heslov, Bernard Hill, Peter Facinelli, Roger Rees, Ralph Moeller, Branscombe Richmond, and Michael Clark Duncan. Now, we're recording these kind of out of order. So, like, we're talking about this episode before we've talked about The Mummy Returns. So we're going to be, like, jumping back and forth a little bit with that. But The Mummy Returns was still in post-production when Universal decided to take a flyer on a spin-off centering around the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, The Rock, a.k.a. Dwayne Johnson. Now, Johnson had not yet proven himself as a box office draw on his own, so the studio decided to send out this kind of test balloon to see if he had any legs as a movie star. The answer, as we now know, is yes, but it was not immediately clear. Now, I feel like there's a trajectory you can follow anytime there's an actor who is like a big physical specimen, the way that The Rock is, the way that Schwarzenegger was, like things like that. Like you start them off playing a villain because like they're very big and intimidating and they seem scary. And then eventually they get to take the lead in a sword and sandals epic that requires a lot of action, not a lot of dialogue, and costumes that show off their very impressive physiques. So for Schwarzenegger, that was Conan the Barbarian. For Jason Momoa, there was Conan the Barbarian. And for The Rock, it was this movie, which is very, very much like Conan the Barbarian in a lot of ways. I think everybody also has to play Hercules at least once. If you're like a big jacked guy in Hollywood, you got to play the Hercules and you have to play a Conan type. So when The Scorpion King was presented as a villain in The Mummy, this movie takes the character back to its origins when he was just Matthias, an Akkadian warrior who led a revolution to overthrow a powerful warlock. And I found a little nugget just for J-Ban. I know you're going to be excited about this. Apparently, loosely based on a real guy, the Scorpion King.
Know.
Yeah, the King Scorpion, they called him. You knew all about him.
There is a mace head that they found. It's a pre-dynastic mace head. He's supposed to be a one of the when was it? So I always get it confused. Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt.
Yeah.
Lower Egypt is north. Upper Egypt is south. So it was Upper Egypt was in a bunch of different pieces, and he allegedly united them.
Yeah, he was one of the people credited with kind of like uniting.
Are you calling me a nerd, or are you calling the Scorpion King a nerd?
I'm calling you a nerd.
Yeah, because you can't call the Scorpion King a nerd. He'll come for you.
Yeah, apparently he might come back.
He'll wrestle you through a table. He'll come back as the worst CGI you've ever seen in your life.
It was really funny because, like, in this movie, they have a bunch of Middle Eastern and Egyptian area and North African groups and peoples, and they actually use the names. Like the Akkadians did exist.
Yeah, they're kind of a dead society now, right? Am I mistaken in that? Yeah.
Most societies that have existed are dead societies.
Some
now,
of them, but occasionally, like Syria is still around, and like things like that. So occasionally, and Egypt is still around, obviously. Now, Universal was betting big on the wrestler becoming a crossover star. Now, he got $500,000 for his very brief role in The Mummy Returns, which didn't even have any dialogue. But that was already quite a large amount. For this movie, he got $5.5 million.
Yeah, it was the biggest.
It set the record for like a first-time debut film. I think the record previously had been held by Bruce Willis. And even Bruce Willis had a couple of movies under his belt. They just weren't like action movies,
But The Rock has such a huge and loyal fan base. It did make a sense. Like this money isn't out of left field. Definitely.
And we should zoom out on The Rock just a little bit because he would have been about 30 years old around the time this movie came out. And he comes from like a wrestling family. Like his dad and his grandfather were both famous professional wrestlers, and his dad's name was Rocky, and his name The Rock comes from that, like as a reference to his dad. But over the course of like the 90s into the early 2000s, The Rock kind of emerged as like arguably the biggest wrestling celebrity ever. I think maybe Hulk Hogan still has like closer name recognition, like in terms of like somebody who's just a wrestler.
More successful.
The Rock is more successful and less of a horrible person. So
The Rock has so far managed to not alienate every decent person.
Yes, yeah. It's a bad sign when Hulk Hogan died this year, and you didn't see a lot of people coming out and saying warm things about him.
Yeah,
he was kind of a shitty person, and The Rock does not seem to suffer from that same problem. But he was definitely like a huge star who had like a lot of name recognition. It just wasn't clear, like, can this guy act?
And it's interesting. This is the second film of his that we've done, or third if you count Jumanji 2.
Yeah, we did Jumanji. Yeah,
did we do Jumanji 2 or?
We did Jumanji the first one.
Just the
we
first
only
one.
did the first one.
So like it's so interesting because later on you see him develop as a comedic actor, which I always believe is where he shines. But like in his first foray into a leading man role, he's just playing this straight sort of superhero, like it's so interesting, like watching this movie, and I don't say this as an insult, it just reminded me of an episode of Xena or Hercules, The Legendary Continues, and I loved Xena and I loved Hercules. It just felt like it was like a bigger budget, like it's just really a ripping pace of these sort of like pseudo classical adventures.
And these types of movies, like we're talking about kind of like sword and sandal like epics, which are like usually barbarians, and sometimes there's magic involved, and everybody's scantily
clad women.
We're all out shooting
and
in the
scantily
desert.
Clad men.
Yeah, everybody's like barely wearing anything, and like there's oppressed villagers and evil madmen, and all you kind of need is like a big physical specimen. He doesn't necessarily need to be good with dialogue. He needs to just be convincing as an action hero, and he needs to kind of hold the screen. And so for that regard, I think The Rock is doing everything he needs to do for this movie. I think he's a lot of fun in this.
So I have not seen this movie before. And like
shocking.
Yeah, right. As I was watching the movie, there were like little things that were sticking out to me, like the differences in soundtrack compared to The Mummy.
Right.
And it didn't hit until the movie ended, went to the credit scene, and Godsmack just immediately kicks in. And I was like, oh, this is the divorced dad version of The Mummy.
It 100%. Like literally the soundtrack. I was writing it down when I saw it because Justin is like salivating somewhere. It's Godsmack, Nickelback, System of a Down, Rob Zombie, Hoobastank, Seven Dust, Creed, Drowning Pool. This is just like a who's who of stuff that Justin would be into.
Yeah, this is full on the divorced dad version of The Mummy.
It absolutely is.
And I thought it was fun.
But this was also like that's a way to kind of modernize it because this genre is kind of a dead genre. Like there aren't really a lot of like barbarian movies anymore.
It's just going to be really interesting when the Odyssey comes out this year.
I mean, the Odyssey's not quite the same thing, but it is like
I guess still the same world.
I guess what I'm thinking of more is like B-level versions of this, like Conan and Deathstalker and like Krull and stuff like that.
The Scorpion King is necessarily a B version because it had the budget.
That's the thing. I was surprised they put like $60 million into this movie. It costs almost as much as The Mummy Returns. And this thing has some production values, actually. Like I was a little surprised that they would put that much money into what is very clearly like an homage to like old B movies. You know, there were a lot of Hercules movies back in like the 60s and 70s that came out of Italy that are all kind of like low production values, but like similarly just like big men covered in oil and hitting each other with swords. Like this has been a thing for a long time, but it's kind of one of those disreputable genres. And I think they put like a big budget, like a big Hollywood budget behind it. So they really believed in The Rock.
It's a disreputable genre because it's so easy to do it badly.
Yeah. There's so many bad ones.
And I do think it works better as a serial week to week like Xena and Hercules.
Yeah.
Just because you get to build on the sort of how adventure of the week, monster of the week. It's harder to have that have the legs to do a 90-minute movie. And this movie clipped along at a really fast pace.
This is 90 on the dot, and that's including credits, which is exactly as long as this movie should be and not a minute longer. So they nailed that. Yeah. They nailed that. I never felt like we were getting too bogged down with exposition or with world building because I think I think this movie had a very specific goal and it's like, no, let's not worry about magic. Let's not worry about
it. Also helps to some degree where, a lot of movies that are in this more like historical adventure genre are reaching into their past as well.
Yeah.
Whereas here we were staying. The movie takes place in the era.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the history as people finding it. We are exploring it and seeing it as it's happening, which I think is also, it's easier to show than it is to explain.
Yeah.
And so we don't have to have as much explanation because the majority of it is actively happening. So we can see this lady's the sorceress by watching her get a flashback or flash forward to the future. And we're like, oh, okay, we get what's going on here. We don't need exposition.
And I think
there is so much exposition in the start of this movie. There's a good solid 10 minutes of exposition.
But then once you get through that, then it's
I'm not saying it as a bad thing. I'm just saying I'm just saying that this movie starts off with this is what's going on, and I think you sort of do need that. But it definitely wasn't a seamless expositionless beginning.
But what I'm saying is they're not adding an extra.
And then move through.
Yeah, they're not adding an extra 30 minutes to this movie trying to make us deeply invested in the characters of the world. I think they fully understand.
They're
this
not
is
trying
kind
to
of
make it historically accurate
not
by
the
any
least.
stretch of the imagination. And they're definitely it's really interesting. I think the weakest part of the movie, personally for me, is the villain
Memnon. Yeah. Who's played by a Scottish actor named Stephen Brand, who I have not seen in anything else.
I think he's done some TV that I saw, and he was good in the TV, but I just felt like he was definitely a very generic villain, and I would have loved. I think that's one of the reasons why the original Mummy was so successful, is that the casting for that villain was so charismatic. And I honestly think that if this movie had a more charismatic villain, I think this would have made double its budget.
This guy was playing
double it's gross.
Yeah, this guy was playing kind of like an old world tech bro. Basically, he was more of a sniveling rich guy with a couple of skills, but like when he, jumping ahead to the final battle scene, like his whole signature move is waiting for people to shoot an arrow at him and then swatting it out of the air. I'm like, that's a dumb move, man. Like you fuck that up one time and you're done. In this case, he gets knocked off a parapet, caught on fire, and impaled. So he really fucked it up.
That is exactly what happens when you get shot with an arrow.
That's what happens. I mean, I think it helps that this movie like moves along and is such like high energy fun throughout. I think it helps that they have a really good director here. Chuck Russell, kind of quietly one of my favorite like under the radar 80s directors, because his debut film was Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, which he wrote and directed, which rules, is the best in that series, is one of my favorite horror movies ever. He followed it up with the 1989 remake of The Blob. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
One of the great gore movies of all time. The gore special effects in that movie are legendary. They're so gross. That movie's like nasty and really fun. And then, in 1994, his biggest movie that he ever directed was Jim Carrey in The Mask. Which is a really stylish, like really cool movie with a lot of like CGI that still holds up pretty well today.
He took like a 14-year break after The Scorpion King.
Kinda, yeah. He has not been doing as much as I would have liked, because I always like him as sort of like a lower level auteur who's got kind of a good sense of timing and pacing. Like he had a couple movies in there, Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which didn't do great. And then
I liked Eraser though.
Yeah, Eraser's fine. And then Bless the Child, which is a horror movie with Kim Basinger that sucks and is like did really bad. And I think now he's directing movies over in like India.
Okay.
So I'm hoping for a Chuck Russell comeback. Like I really really like him, and I think this is kind of his last big bite at the apple. But hey, there's always time. He's still with us. But yeah, so. I think another thing below the line people I need to shout out here. So Stephen Sommers, who directed the other Mummy movies, he did some of the script, but most of the script was done by William Osborne and David Hayter. And if that last name is pinging some recognition for all the dorks in the audience, that's because David Hayter is the voice of Solid Snake in the Metal Gear Solid games.
Oh my god, that's a deep cut.
It's a deep cut. He was Solid Snake for most of the series until they kind of like fired him unceremoniously and replaced him with Kiefer Sutherland. But he was a voice actor. He also wrote the screenplays to the original X-Men and the Watchmen movie. So interesting guy. He's got a very cool kind of Hollywood career.
And something you touched on, and I think it serves this movie very well, is the pacing.
Yeah.
This movie, again, as we were saying, isn't a movie where they really want you to sit and think about it. The whole point is it's like... Again, it's like the divorced dad rock of The Mummy, where like it's divorced dad rock is fine if you like it, you like it. However, it is something that when you were like, oh, this is what I'm trying to get.
Yeah,
you're not gonna sit here and like think too deeply about the action of this movie and like the logistics and the realism behind it. And the pacing does a really good job of like not giving you just the right amount of time to be like, oh, what about? And then it's like, oh, that thing. Yeah, we're going to handle that now.
Yeah.
So we start off with basically the Matthias and his brothers being hired to assassinate the sorcerer. And then the action happens, and then, oh no, the sorcerer is actually a hot as fuck sorceress.
Dear God. Okay, yeah. I have to take a few moments to just be horny on main for this character. Kelly Hu is stunning, and I'd only known her from... I mean, I've seen this movie before. It's been a long time. I knew her from X-Men 2. She plays Lady Deathstrike in that, and she doesn't have any dialogue. And then she's in Friday the 13th Part 8, and like she's a victim like early on in the movie, but like... She is absolutely stunning.
I remember her from Nash Bridges.
Nash Bridges, that's a deep cut. It
seems like one of those things where you definitely would have. It's a significant enough detail that you think that would have been included.
Yeah,
well, and it just goes to show you that it's really unfortunate that like a lot of these incredibly attractive women didn't necessarily have a career after being showcased, and it's really unfortunate because they're so talented. And
also, look up her IMDb photo and see what she looks like now. She is stunning.
Yeah.
She's got this amazing mane of like salt and pepper hair now, but she looks incredible. And is doing like primarily voice acting now. She does a lot of cartoons and a lot of video games. So and she's got a great voice, and I think she's really fun in this, and like
I think she's spectacular in this.
Yeah.
I feel like she steals the movie a little bit from The Rock because she's so every time she's on screen, she's so charismatic.
Yeah, and yeah, like again, I have no problem with what The Rock is doing here. Like, and
no, I love what The Rock is doing, and like, but
I love what he's cooking. I can smell it.
Yeah, but you can see like maybe 5% of his sense of humor coming through.
Yeah,
and that's really where he shines. Is like when he starts to do like the eyebrow raise in the harem and like things like that, where he's just being a little bit goofier, and I think that's really where he continues to shine as a performer is his comedic sensibility.
Well, he needed to establish a star persona so he could kind of start poking fun at that a little bit. That's what Jumanji does really well.
I think that's like maybe the weakest point of the movie is just that The Rock is still figuring out who The Rock is as an actor.
Yeah.
And so there are some scenes where you are like, that was kind of... It was never like a notable detractor, but some of the scenes may be a little flat, maybe like not a lot of charisma. And then the next scene, you'd be like, well, that's it. There, we found it. It's there.
He's still using his wrestling moves. He's still putting his physicality to really good use, and that's kind of what you need him to do. And he looks great. And I think it also really helps. I think this movie is so fun, and a lot of that is because it doesn't wink. This movie is very earnest, and
it's very earnest, and also like the writing is very straightforward.
Yeah,
it's a very classic sort of plot structure for this sort of they go on an adventure to kill the guy. Oh no, there's a left turn that the guy is actually a girl. They kidnap the girl. They keep escape twice. They fall in love.
Yeah.
They go and they unite to attack the enemy. Like, it's super simple plot, and I'm there for it.
Yeah, you're not going to get surprised, but then you're also not bored of it. When it happens, it's executed well.
It's definitely an homage, like to Conan, to all those early movies. To maybe I was even getting a little bit of like early John Carter from Mars. Like the sorceress in particular feels very Dejah Thoris, like very warrior queen kind of energy. But it doesn't feel like it's picking those apart or anything, or even necessarily trying to just like explicitly remake those. I think this feels like an homage, and it feels much more intentional than you might expect.
So I did think it was really interesting that the costume design was very like Xena warrior princess on some people, and also the guards from Aladdin.
A little bit, yeah. And in this game, in the game that we played, everybody has berets for some reason. I wasn't quite clear on why. They all look like Jill Valentine from Resident Evil.
And so, on The Rock, I haven't seen it in a long time, so I don't have any like adult memory or opinion of this. But I did see the rundown a bunch when I was a kid.
Yeah,
which was the very next year The Rock did, and I think that was like the movie where the Rock kind of knocked off whatever, not necessarily rust, but like the bits of things that he hadn't touched on before. Because I remember him being exceptionally charismatic in that movie.
Yeah.
A very otherwise uninteresting movie.
Yeah.
I remember him absolutely being, because it's kind of humorous, it's a little goofy. And I think in this movie he's so close to finding that in him, and then doing it.
I think the Scorpion King actually dulls his charisma a little bit to be more in situ, because like if you've seen any of his wrestling, he's so charismatic. He's like every eyeball in a $50,000 person stadium is looking at him. And so like he's sort of finding his way of as being an actor and how to bring his personal charisma to an acting role, which takes time,
especially since he was essentially doing stage acting where you have to be extra because people aren't next to you. The camera's not, the audience isn't 5 feet away from you like the camera is. And so it's interesting seeing him like navigating that of like what areas is he toning down the most, what areas is he not. And then you can definitely, from watching this, you can see like, oh, I can see why he has made so much money.
It's really interesting. The action scenes I feel are a little dated, but I did enjoy the underground action scene where he was like sort of like being a ninja. I thought that was super fun.
Yeah, with everybody falling in the quicksand and stuff like that, and like he's kind of using Batman techniques in that scene where he's like using the dark and the shadows. But I think I was a little. I didn't come to this movie until fairly recently. I've seen it once before, and then watched it the second time for this episode, and I always enjoy it. But I think when it came out, I was kind of allergic to this idea that like this is clearly a very curated movie star career that's kind of rolling out, and that was what The Rock had. Like if you follow like career arcs the way I do, like The Rundown is a good example. Like this movie is the pilot. This is like, okay, can he hold the screen? Will people come out for it? This movie did well. It cost $60 million. It made about 30. You know, so it did fine. Critics seem to generally like it while acknowledging what it is. And The Rundown was sort of like
to say that it made 30 over like its budget and its marketing.
Not
it made like 180 total.
Yeah,
overseas. Yeah. With everything overseas. Yeah, it did.
Like
it did better.
It made its money back.
Yeah, and I think with The Rundown, that's his movie star debut, right? Because literally one of the first, I think I've mentioned this on other podcasts before, but literally the first scene in that movie is him passing Arnold Schwarzenegger in a club, and Arnold pats him on the shoulder and says, "Have fun." Literally, that's his only line. That's one. It's just a walk-off cameo, and it's just like a passing the torch moment. It's like, you are the new Arnold. You're the new big movie star.
I forgot.
And it still took a couple years for him to find it.
I forgot about the Doom movie.
Oh yeah, see, that's the thing. Yeah, the Doom movie. He had like Walking Tall and like Drive. And there were a couple of movies in there that weren't connecting. I think weirdly, he became a huge deal with Fast Five when he joined the cast of Fast and Furious. That's when this whole second act of his career took off, and then Jumanji was like really huge for him. Have either of you seen The Smashing Machine yet?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet. I hear it's really good, and he's really good in it. And I'm curious to check it out because it sounds like he's doing something actually pretty different.
Because lately he's been kind of doing a lot of very similar roles, and so it'll be interesting to see how he does.
I'm super curious about why it didn't do as good as it. Like I know, like I didn't get out of my seat to go to the cinema to see it, but I just like it's not a mood for a sad movie. Like I'm having really struggling with like all the Oscar contenders like Hamnet and the other sad movies.
Yeah.
I just like at the moment I want to watch fun movies.
Yeah. I'm with you on that, and I think that was, from what I understand, and I haven't seen it yet, that movie was kind of mismarketed. I think they kind of sold it as like this inspirational sports story, and it's much more like kind of complicated and intense than that. And then so the people who saw it and found it really intense were put off by it. So it got like a bad cinema score and stuff like that. But I think people generally had good things to say, or critics generally had good things to say about that. I'm curious to see it.
They're making a live action version of Moana.
Yeah, it's happening.
Have you heard about that?
No.
Man, talk about milking a franchise dry. That movie's 10 years old. The movie's 10 years old, and we're already remaking it in live action with The Rock coming back playing
the
Maui.
sequel just came out,
The sequel just came out, and it was terrible. Like, it was rushed and like sloppy and had bad songs. Like, so I don't know. They're milking that one to death. But either way, like, I think this is a fascinating little kind of entry point to what would be a very interesting movie star career, and kind of one of the last like true big movie star careers that we've had. You know, like every once in a while somebody will pop and they'll have this very traditional arc where it's where you can see the mechanics of it.
Like there's arguments they were talking about all this year about how the movie star is dead.
Yeah.
And I really do feel like this year has demonstrated the movie star is dead. Like Margot Robbie, Colin Firth's movie, like I didn't watch it. Colin Farrell, sorry. And it's just like in The Rock movie, and then a bunch of movies came out this year with movie stars, but no one went out to see them. And like, and I think that's really like, who is left as a movie star?
It's Tom Cruise. It's it's a couple of the old time. Tom Hanks is always going to do it, but even Tom Hanks has been doing smaller projects. He's working with Wes Anderson more.
How many movies does Tom Cruise do? Like,
he does, I mean, it's always an event, But even the new Mission Impossible struggled a bit, and I think is one of the weaker ones in the series. And like,
we're seeing this thing that I like in various ways, where we're starting to get people you don't recognize in movies that are killing the performances. And it's ending up with really good movies, but not movies that you had a lot of draw to in the beginning.
Yeah, I think they're trying to do like a rock level movie star run with Glenn Powell. I think because Glenn Powell, yeah, he's a local Texas boy. You'd know him if you see him, but he was in like Top Gun Maverick in a showy supporting role, and he's like been good in a couple of small things. He co-wrote Hitman with Richard Linklater,
which was really fun movie,
really good, and kind of showcased his range a little bit. And now he's had like The Running Man and a couple of other things, Twisters.
But even Running Man did terrible, and that had a star director and a star.
And a license that people know, and I didn't see it, yeah. And yeah, there have been other attempts, like Sydney Sweeney's the other side of that coin, where they're forcing her on us too much, and she had 3 movies that bombed this year.
Or
Jared Leto.
Okay. No,
put him in more movies, please.
Yeah.
He's gonna be Skeletor. They're doing a He-Man movie next summer, and he's playing Skeletor.
Christ.
They've learned nothing. They've learned nothing.
Honestly, I don't like Jared Leto as a performer, but it'd be interesting to see him as Skeletor. But I feel like he's too young to play Skeletor.
He's 55.
He's 50.
He's in his 50s. Yeah, he's
really?
well into his 50s. Yeah, he looks young. But it's all that. I'm sure he's drinking like virgin blood on his secret island cult or something. The guy's a fucking weirdo.
He is.
I am so allergic to Jared Leto. Seriously,
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying
I've avoided watching movies that otherwise look good if he's in them. Yeah.
My mom loved 30 Seconds to Mars.
Really?
And then started learning more about him, and she's just like, yeah.
What he did with his cast of Suicide Squad, since I heard that, I've always been like had a bad taste in my mouth about it.
Yeah, and like the only thing that I ever hear from like the people who are more knowledgeable about music and like those genres is just like nothing is like super egregious, but a lot of things are like, I don't know. It's
like in
not
terms
a person
of
I want to be around.
Yeah,
or associated with.
Yeah, like he hasn't broken any laws. I guess he just seems like a creepo, and he's not a very good actor, and he's not a box office draw. So.
Yeah, again, I think we've mentioned this before. The only role that I thought he did well in was in sci-fi movie
Blade
Runner, and that's because he was playing a
psycho. And my one
he's
fix,
playing a sociopath.
My one fix for that movie is to lift him out, and the movie's 10 minutes shorter, and you don't have to deal with him. But that's on me. But yeah, I mean, so it's really interesting to kind of look at it as in terms of like the last movie star that we could actually watch the steps. There are very clear steps for different movie stars.
You have The Rock, and then he's in something like Red One, and it just does gangbusters.
That one's slow played it. Like it was not an immediate hit, but it's becoming a year later. It's like a lot of people watched it on streaming for Christmas, and I've been tempted because I've heard people call it one of the worst movies ever made.
It's not one of the worst movies ever made. I watched it. It was entertaining. It was very simplistic.
It looks obnoxious to me.
It's just like,
I don't know.
It's a good movie to watch with your family at Christmas because it's a 4 quadrant movie. Yeah. I watched it with my mom, and my mom loved it, and so and I didn't dislike it. There are some jokes that hit, but mostly it's kind of, they sort of have the banter between The Rock and
Chris Evans
could have been a lot better. Like it feels a little forced, but it's still entertaining.
Yeah. I don't know. I might do it. Maybe next Christmas. Now it's past, so the season, it would feel weird to watch it now, but maybe next Christmas.
We get to forget about Christmas movies for 11 more months.
Well, we should move on to talk about the games because we're covering 2 of them today, as we often do.
Both different games.
One a prequel, one a sequel. So let's talk about the prequel first, which was The Scorpion King: Rise of the Akkadian. This is for the GameCube, and this is a 3D third-person action brawler. The Rock does come back and do his voice, at least half of it. He does the voice for cutscenes, and then when he's doing like the remedial stuff in between, it's a sound alike. But it's got a good voice cast between him. It's also got him. It's got Mark Hamill, and it's got Billy West, and it's got a couple of old pros that you like to hear in a video game. I think this game looks pretty good. It's got some pretty crisp, if not very exciting graphics. It looks like the Rock model was pulled just straight from like a wrestling game.
Did we say this was a 2002 on the PlayStation and GameCube?
Yes, yeah. We played on the GameCube, but it's also on the PlayStation 2. Yeah.
And it didn't commit sins.
No.
It was kind of what we run into a lot, where it's a little uninspired. It's like they essentially made and planned gameplay for like 1 or 2 levels, and then once that was done, they drew it out into 12 levels, and so it gets kind of boring and repetitive.
The problem is, like, I'm basically with these games, I'm kind of looking for it to give just like 10% more of a shit than it needs to, and that's kind of what I got here.
Yeah.
There's destructible environments, there's some puzzles, there's some hidden items. I like that you have. I like that your weapons are temporary, like they break, and if they're from overuse,
hate that
like
shit so much. But,
see, yeah, I don't know. I think it makes it more dynamic because you get more weapons to use, and you're not just like spamming your sword attacks all the time.
The main thing that's kept me from playing the Breath of the Wild.
Oh, sure.
The second one.
But I mean, I
really
think
that's what's kept you.
Yeah.
The second one I haven't gotten to because I don't like the thing where you have to like build your own vehicles. Like I don't like crafting.
It's like Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts.
That's the problem. It was the nuts and bolts problem. I couldn't get into that either. Like I don't like having to build my own shit in a game. Like 'cause I get overwhelmed by the paralysis, and I just don't have an engineering mind. You know, like I don't know how to make shit work. But yeah, I think the problem I had with this game is that it gets incredibly repetitive.
It's
very
so
fast.
repetitive. Ugh.
You have to basically, every time you go into a new area, you just have to defeat a set number of enemies, and then the next door will unlock, and you go on and rinse, repeat, you know. The whole game looks like it takes about 4.5 hours, so it's not like horribly intrusive on your time. I can imagine like getting a little stoned and zoning out and just kind of like tapping buttons for a while and having a decent enough time.
Yeah,
it wasn't. Yeah, like you said, it wasn't offensive in any way. Like I think it's generally pretty good at what it's trying to do. I wish there was a lock on.
The boss levels seem a little interesting. Like because I like classic mythology. Like you get to see a sphinx and a minotaur, and so that's fun. But like the
sphinx fight looked boring as hell.
Yeah, like the fights seem to be a little like uninspired, and I think that's the main thing with this game is it's just sort of uninspired. Like you have very few changes in enemies. Like you have a tall man,
you have a big guy, you have a little guy, and you get an animal sometimes.
Yeah.
The dogs are brutal in this game. The dog, because they're again, without a lock on, it's kind of you're swinging randomly a lot, and I also found myself like running past enemies or turning around when I'm trying to attack them. So it's a little bit of a clusterfuck. I didn't find it enough of a clusterfuck to like make it unplayable, but it could have been tightened up, and it kind of makes you have a mechanic where you can pick up like vases or chunks of rubble and throw it. And I never found that very effective because I couldn't aim it.
Yeah, the camera doesn't naturally follow you. It is the same distance from you at all times, but it doesn't follow your back.
Yeah.
And so you either have to be manually adjusting it while you're playing and fighting, or constantly spamming the camera reset button.
That is the weird thing, right? Every time you come into a new room, the camera's facing you. Like it's and the enemies are running at you from off camera. Like you think you would like center behind you.
A lot of times when you're going to pick something up, you're picking it up while looking at it, and then you're like, oh well, now I want to throw it at something that is not in my camera. So now I have to like and it's not as nice as like something more modern would be. It's a little slow, a little clunky. It's not as sensitive as you might want the camera rotating to be. And so I think if it was a little more magnetized to the direction you were facing, I think that would have helped a lot. But this is also 2002, and we're still...
This game is boring but functional.
Yeah. I think it was a pretty good representation of the movie because they're both like kind of dumb but diverting and like just a little bit better than they need to be.
I think the other video game, which I fucking loved, is like more indicative of the movie because I really thought the movie is charming. Like I know I've been bitching about it as being like sort of like but I really genuinely do think this movie is super fun. Like I think it's a romp.
Yeah,
do you know what this game could have used?
What's that?
anything that was any music that was more than just when as soon as you boot the game up and it kicks into "I Stand Alone" by Godsmack.
We get a little bit of that,
and then the rest of the game, the music is. I don't remember it being there. I assume there was something, but there was never.
It was there. It was very generic, but it was like generic, like desert-y, like ooh.
Yeah, no, like not like action-y music to like keep you like the pace or the focus or anything. It was just like all in all, even like the boss fights, which we mostly watched, all the boss fights still also looked very boring, uninspired, no like
there's
fun music to go with it.
Right. There's a little bit more strategy. Like you go to Minos and fight a Minotaur, like just because why not? This is a prequel to the movie, we should mention too. Like so all the events of this game take place before. And so you get
a sick ass sword near the end. And then at the end of the game, the sword disappears into
fairy dust.
And we should say that we do get to get The Rock's likeness in this movie, which is very rare for the video games we play.
Yeah. I mean, back in the early 2000s, it was more part of your standard contract that if you're in the movie, you're voicing the game as well. Nowadays, it's not very common.
I think this game would have been an acceptable rent and a disappointing gift.
Possibly, but I was not mad at any of it. I will say I too greatly preferred the other game, which is called The Scorpion King: Sword of Osiris, and this was released for the Game Boy Advance. I was kind of charmed by this one right off the bat. First of all, you play as the sorceress, like right in the beginning, so you get a little bit more diversity in like who you're playing as. It's also more of like a Metroidvania style approach rather than just like a straightforward like side-scrolling beat 'em up, which it very well could have been. But y'all played this one more than I did. I kind of just booted it up to see like how well it worked.
I had a terrific time with this game.
Yeah, you didn't want to give it up.
It was so much fun. Like it had a bunch of different things you could do. You could climb up walls. You could climb over ceilings. You could jump. You could like jump through these like. It was just so much fun. Like the bad guys were varied and interesting. So you had to sort of like kept you on your toes. And like when the Anubis guy showed up, you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
And definitely it was really fun. And like the story was like really fun. They, of course, obviously they kidnapped the sorceress because somehow the sorceress didn't see this coming.
Well, once she
that
power.
was a lie. She doesn't lose her power. Didn't you get that?
No, I didn't.
That was a lie. That was a lie she told so that she wouldn't have to sleep with the king.
You know what? Totally fair.
Yeah. And this, I was just realizing, this is developed by WayForward. They've done a couple of games that we talked about, and they always kind of outperform what they need to do. I think the last most significant one that we talked about was another Mummy, the Tom Cruise Mummy. Mm-hmm. They did that game, which was really, really fun.
That tracks then.
Level design was so much fun. You could definitely like fall through and have to go all the way back around, and they kept it interesting. So like when you fell through a hole, you didn't feel like, oh god damn it. You were like, ooh, what's this place?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he's got a great wall jump. I only got to do a little bit of that, but I really like the animation on the wall jump because you stick your sword in the wall and then he kind of takes a second to kind of swing around it and leap off, and it feels pretty organic and it's kind of well animated. And it's like big sprites, very expressive sprites.
It does the thing that I like sometimes where it is like you can use that to go up, and then there's like a second level, like layer to the level, and then if you fall down and mess it up, you just go through the normal level. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. This one, I came away from it being like, oh, okay, I think I need to earmark this. I might want to come back and play the rest of this.
Play this more.
Because this seems really fun, and it's well animated. It's got some good swift action to it, and it's like a little bit of a challenge.
Like a really interesting storyline.
And this one, I believe, is taking place after the events of the movie because they refer to him to Cassandra, the sorceress, as his wife. Mm-hmm. So they've moved past that. You know what we never got in either the game or the movie was an explanation for how the Scorpion King turned so evil, and maybe we'll get to that a little bit more, or maybe we've already gotten to that when we talked about The Mummy Returns last week. Well, we haven't recorded that episode yet, so I'm not sure.
Some of us have never seen that film.
Well, there you go. Yeah, we're going to learn a little bit about it. You might be a little jarred to see your hero, the Scorpion King, being a bad guy.
Like, it's been a long time, but I remember, I think he made the deal with like the Egyptian equivalent of the devil.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
They always do.
Yeah, but he truly has like 5 minutes of screen time in that movie or something like that. But yeah, we will have gotten to that. But yeah, I give a recommend to Sword of Osiris for Game Boy Advance. I think that's kind of a slept on little game.
They made 4 movie sequels to this.
Oh, I
movie.
forgot to even touch upon that. Yeah, that became
that was
a thing.
wild when I discovered this.
That became a thing for a little bit. There are a bunch of direct-to-video sequels, and like each week they would bring, or not each week, each movie. They would bring in kind of like the new hot muscly guy to be the Scorpion King, and then they would have somebody from the world of like MMA or pro wrestling or something like that, kind of in a villain role or something like that. So this is where Dave Bautista got his acting start, and
really?
I would argue that he's maybe the strongest wrestler turned actor that we have.
I love his acting.
He's fantastic, and like. Yeah, Randy Couture was in one of them, and like I don't think any of the guys who played the Scorpion King ever popped, but it became kind of a robust franchise for a little bit. And I think part of it, by the time I had gotten to this movie for the first time, those movies had already been out for a while, so I think I had an idea that this was a much lower rent, much cheaper franchise than it was.
Supposedly, there's a reboot in the works with The Rock.
Oh, of the Scorpion King? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, interesting. I'd be curious to see that. Yeah, maybe this becomes one of his like pet series that he comes back to. He could be like. There's been rumors too of like
as a producer, not as a star though.
But maybe they do. Another one of the rumors is that there's going to be a King Conan movie starring.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Starring a present day Arnold Schwarzenegger as like the aged king, presiding over the kingdom. So maybe they do something like that. But I think we see from the Mummy Returns that he dies kind of young. So yeah, I don't know. Either way, I think we should move on to our rankings. Is The Scorpion King a good movie, good game, a bad movie, bad game, or somewhere in between? J-Bam, why don't you kick us off?
I think this is a super fun movie. Don't go in expecting a good movie, but like you will have a rollicking fun time. I think it's a fun movie. Like it made me want to go back and watch Xena.
Yeah.
And I think the video game is. I'm gonna give like the first video game,
the GameCube one.
The GameCube one.
Rise of the Akkadian.
Rise of the Akkadian. I'm going to give a good solid C.
Okay. For cool.
First time we've used that.
Yeah. Come on, you stupid dog! Stop biting me.
And then I think the Game Boy Advance game is really, really fun. Like, it's so much fun. Like, I had a blast playing it.
Absolutely. I think I'm in the same boat. Like, I think this movie is a really good time. Like, check your brain at the door. Get ready for some cool explosions, some big muscles, some sexy ladies. Like, it's mindless entertainment in kind of the best possible way. Like, you don't need to be taking notes while you're watching it, but you're going to have a good time. And then I'm in the same boat. I think both of these games are kind of better and a little more thoughtful than they needed to be. But I think the GameCube game probably needed a little bit more time in the oven to break up the gameplay, maybe add a lock-on feature, mix up the soundtrack a little bit. While the Game Boy Advance game felt pretty well developed, it pretty much arrived in a good form, and I'm curious to play more. Yeah, I might boot it up and keep playing it. So, Justin, where do you come down?
I think similar to J-Ban, I'm gonna give the Game Boy game a B+. I'm gonna give the GameCube and PlayStation 2 game a C-.
We're just confusing the metrics so
bad. I'm gonna give the movie a solid B.
All right. Okay.
It was a good time. It was fun. Probably won't watch it again, but yeah. If I go to a friend's place and the movie is on, I'll be like, oh hell yeah, and I'll sit down and watch
The Scorpion King. And it's not going to take up too much of your time. So it's hard to be mad at a movie that's just kind of like.
That's the other time, because sometimes we watch movies that are in my head like lesser movies, in the sense that like this is going to be not the most fun experience, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like almost 2 hours, and I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And then whenever I find out that the movie is a solid 90 minutes, regardless of quality, I'm like, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I can give it that time. Well, thank you everybody for going on that little side quest with us as we continue our ongoing Mummy retrospective, and we are going to be wrapping it up next week with the final, to date, parentheses, movie in the franchise, and it's called The Mummy: Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. And we have some new friends in the cast, and we're missing a couple of classic characters, so let's see how much that is going to impact the movie. We will talk about it. It's not a movie I've seen in a while, so I'm interested to check back in with it. So see you next week for the finale of our Mummy Deep Dive, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. All right, everybody, stay scorpion-y.
Jeez.
Stay stung.
Stay stung. Stay stung. Yeah, see, that one's better. Stay stung, everybody. Stay stung.
Hit stop.